Hello, this is my first look at the recent release Wine 11.0. Let's look at the release notes. So this is the homepage, winehq.org. These are the release notes. A new refreshed system for running x64-bit executables, Windows executables. So in Windows, you can run both 32-bit executables and 64-bit executables at the same time. And then Wine says that it still supports 16-bit applications. This is done using a mechanism named WoW64, so Windows on Windows. There's this directory, c:\windows/sys WoW64. Where the 32-bit executables that are the minimum executables that should exist in a Windows operating system are located, such as Notepad and the registry editor and Paint, etc. There's support for the Linux kernel module and T-Sync for improved performance. And improvements for gaming and GPU acceleration. I have a fresh installation of Wine on a fresh installation of Arch Linux. Let's start installing some of the usual desktop applications that I install under Windows. Let's see how they work on Wine. We could go two ways to achieve what I want. Is either we download some of the executables using the Firefox web browser that's installed in Arch Linux, and then run wine space and then the name of that executable that we have downloaded, such that we install all of those inside a fresh wine prefix. Or we could enter wine, start in there a cmd.exe, start a explorer.exe, start a web browser, and then from there try to download the executables and execute them. Let's see what's available. If I press Wine and then tab, I get to the list of the executables that have the name starting with Wine. I recognized Wine. I have used before WineCFG. It's the configuration file for the current prefix. A prefix has been generated for us. There's a Windows drive letter Z, which is the root of the host Linux operating system. So the entire slash is available as Z:. And then the C:, is part of the Wine prefix. There exist the Windows standard directories, which are mapped into the Linux user's home directory, such that the documents directory points to ~/documents directory. There's theming support. And there's DLL overrides. If the Wine provides Windows standard DLLs, the Win32 API DLLs, such as shell32.dll, comdlg32.dll, etc., etc. And Wine provides these DLLs both in 32-bit versions and in 64-bit versions. But if some of these DLLs are incomplete for you, you might actually fetch another DLL with the same name from a recent installation of Windows, and you can place it inside your wine prefix, and then you can have a override where the first party DLL from Windows is preferred to the first party DLL from wine. Okay, then there's wine console, which in this case starts a cmd.exe inside the wine prefix. Let's try to use this application. So we have a cmd.exe inside the wine world. Let's try to open in here Explorer, which is the file manager, and that works. Let's try to open in here the web browser, iexplore, which is Internet Explorer, which seems to work out of the box. I have installed in Arch Linux 3 binary packages. Wine, which is the emulator, Gecko, wine-gecko, which is the HTML rendering engine that's then being used by iexplore.exe, explore.exe, and wine-mono, which is part of the .NET framework that is available out of the box in Wine. Thank you for subscribing, joining, and helping this YouTube channel. So in Internet Explorer, Wine Internet Explorer, iexplore.exe, I wrote duckduckgo.com in the address bar. It could navigate to the search engine. And now I'm going to search for the various executables that I want to install in here. The very first one is going to be 7-zip. Let's see if the web browser has tabs. It doesn't have tabs. It cannot open new windows. Okay. And now is the big question. Are we going to go 64-bit only, or should we go both 64 and 32-bit, or 32-bit only? So 64-bit is the default and was the default in Windows for a number of years, more than 10 years. But let's see if Wine 11 does support the 64-bit executables as well as 32-bit executables. So let's try and use 64-bit executables, and then if that doesn't work perfectly, then we're going to go with 32-bit by default. So the option is Windows X 64, AMD 64. Let's see if downloading works. So I did not manage to download using iExplore. Let's see how this thing works. iexplore.exe. Where is does not work. Where does work? So iexplore.exe in the correct directory that we would expect, which is the directory of the 64-bit executables, c:\windows/system32, if this instance of cmd.exe is 64-bit. Okay, we can open as many iExplore windows as we want, but from the command line, if we try from the Wine Internet Explorer main menu, file, new window, that doesn't work. If we try to go right click on a URL, open a new window, that doesn't work. So at least we know how to open a tab and a window from the command line using iExplore. But unfortunately, I do not know how to download files using this web browser. So this will force us to download Firefox ESR from the host Linux operating system. From what I see in Wine Internet Explorer, the support for downloading is not finished yet. I can see some action. If I click on a URL, I can see in the status bar it's saying downloading from and then the URL of a .exe file. I can see in the standard output it says application /mx x-ms download. MS-HTML is the HTML rendering widget, and iframe is the same thing. So it sees that I have clicked on a URL. It sees that I want to download, but not everything is done from what I see in here. And the log level is fix me, so it's not really, doesn't seem like that this source code is implemented, but it fails or it crashes or other errors. Instead, it kind of says that this implementation is not done yet, is stubbed out. Parts of the implementation are just not have just not been written as source code yet. So let's try to download a web browser, because we're going to need a web browser inside of Wine. So I'm using the web browser on my Linux operating system. I searched Firefox ESR on Google. I got to the FTP website, so the mirror, official one, ftp.mozilla.org. And in here I found that the version of Firefox that is the newest and is ESR is probably 140.7.0 ESR. Let's go to this directory. And in here we're looking for Win64 and then for the English version. And also for the X and not the MSI. The web browser uses the wrong file save as dialog. This doesn't look like the KDE Plasma preferred file save as dialog. It's going to save in the ~downloads directory by default. And now let's try to run Wine there. Downloads directory. Let's open the terminal, F4, and go Wine and the name of the file. Welcome. So this is the Mozilla Firefox installer. Launch Firefox now, finish. Let me set up Firefox a second for me. Okay, so this is how it looks like. It's Firefox as you know it, but the fonts are not from the system. These are fonts probably set by Wine. And then there's an extra Kwin title bar on top of the Firefox client-side rendered window decorations. Let's see if we can, for instance, remove the, or how do we do this thing? Customize toolbar and title bar. Yeah, this is a good enough solution. So I changed from CSR client-side rendering to server-side rendering for the window decoration. And now at least I can see the tabs inside the Mozilla Firefox running inside Wine, and the process is 64-bit. The top issue here is this lack of transparency, of gradients, this black rectangle around transparency, such as the tooltips from Windows. The tooltips of tabs, the previews of tabs inside Firefox. Let's open a incognito window, new private window, and let's find the 7-zip installer and download it. I have searched for 7-zip, and we got to the download page. There's an extra black dot there, which disappears if you zoom a bit. So the fonts don't look great at 100% zoom level inside Firefox, but then if you increase the fonts to 110, then they start looking okay. But the fonts are too far apart. There's too much space between the uppercase L and uppercase Z, and in here. Okay, so let's try to download. And it downloads to the ~/downloads directory, which is interesting. So the same downloads directory is going to be used in all of the Wine prefixes and in the host operating system by default. Okay, let's see if we click to open the containing folder, what happens. It opens explorer.exe, which is what I would expect. Okay, I double-clicked on the vertical bar in this list view with files between the file column and the size column, like this. And it did work. Double-clicking means resize the entire column such that all characters are visible. Okay. This is a Windows-style alternative stream. This identifies that the file has been downloaded from the internet. This is a hint for when you start the executable. The Windows operating system will see that the file has been downloaded from the internet very recently, and it will ask you, do you want to trust this file that you have just downloaded from the internet? I'm not sure if Wine has this functionality of warning the user. Probably not. So this is 7-zip 64-bit, Firefox ESR 64-bit. The installer works. Let's see if the context menu just works. Not yet. So the context menu, in the sense of when I right-click in explorer.exe, if the explorer.exe is 64-bit, then it should show a submenu in here named 7-zip with a submenu. Okay, but at least we have 7-zip installed, and we can run it in the more complicated way, so not by right-clicking on a file, but navigating to C:\program files and then 7-zip and opening 7-zip fm.exe, this file. Let's see if about boxes work. So help about 7-zip. Wine Internet Explorer main menu, help about Internet Explorer. It shows the Wine about box. Let's see if we have a cmd.exe. This guy. Let's see if var works. It does. So this is the command line executable that shows the Windows version. winvar.exe. This is the graphical user interface application that shows the Windows version, similar to var. Let's see what else is available. regedit. It's here. MS Paint. Nope. Paint. Nope. What else do we have? MMC. Can we open another cmd.exe from here? It opens inside the existing cmd.exe. Okay. So we have the first application that I wanted, which is 7-zip. I also have the second application that I wanted, which is Mozilla Firefox ESR. The next application is TotalCommander. I need to make sure that I'm not using the wrong Firefox window. This is from Wine, and this is from the host operating system, from Arch Linux. There are different versions. This one is ESR. This other one is not. The fonts are different. The version is 147 versus 140. Let's actually open the Firefox from Linux. And we'll use the Firefox inside Wine. Okay, so I search for TotalCommander, totalcmd.exe. This is the official webpage. Again, the letters are way too wide apart. Let's see how to download. 64-bit version only. Save. Okay. Where is the file manager? This guy. My computer. Where is the downloads directory in here? Okay, so it's a bit hard to navigate to the downloads directory because it's not available out of the box in the left-hand side tree view. There is documents in here, but there's no downloads. But you can always navigate from the web browser if you just downloaded the file. You click on the downloads button, and then there's no tooltips in here, unfortunately, the open containing folder. Okay, so let's open the TotalCommander installer. Next. No other language. /program files totalcmd.exe, correct. Ini file, okay. For all users, Windows Start menu, and desktop. Unfortunately, I don't want any integration of Wine with my KDE Plasma desktop. I do not want Wine to create link files in the start menu, so .desktop files, and I do not want Wine to create things in the KDE Plasma desktop directory. But I'm not sure how to configure Wine to not do those. Unfortunately, after I install Wine, I need to go through the KDE Plasma main menu and edit out, delete all of the entries that were from the previous installation of Wine. Okay, let's see how we start TotalCommander. Wine explorer.exe, /program files totalcmd. The executable is totalcmd.exe. There's the possibility of running as administrator. I'm not sure if UAC, user account control, is implemented in Wine yet. Let's test. This is a bug. The buttons are shown behind a panel. So the bottoms of the 1, 2, 3 buttons are truncated. Okay, let's configure TotalCommander. Display hidden system, operation, left mouse button, quick search, letters only. Okay. Favorites. What is favorites? Can't we put TotalCommander as a favorite? Create link. How do we make a thing favorite? I'm not sure. The desktop, how do I put it on the desktop? Let's see if I can start the two applications from the desktop. So TotalCommander.desktop is a Linux file. I'm not sure how to edit these things. Okay, let's prove that the two .desktop files, Firefox.desktop and TotalCommander 64-bit, exist on the KDE Plasma desktop, and they're here. So that was not expected. Okay. So let's start TotalCommander and make sure we don't close it. TotalCMD.exe. Okay, let's see if the command line in TotalCommander does work. Let's see if common operations work. F7, create a temporary directory, does work. Change directory works. The context menu is incorrect. Is not the Windows style context menu. This is the simplified Wine style context menu. Okay, let's see if we can start applications from here. CMD. Okay. Let's see what other executables exist in Windows System 32. Search sort by extension and go to the letter E for exe. So we have cmd.exe. We have started this executable a number of times. A DLL host is for starting a function inside of a DLL. Some of the Windows graphical user interface applications are actually a DLL that is started using DLL host. We already saw Explorer, cmd.exe, DirectX diagnostics. Okay, we already saw iexplore.exe. So it's 8.3 names, iexplore without an R. Whereas Explorer does have a final R before .exe. ipconfig. Let's see what it says. Ethernet adapter LO, so network, the local loopback network interface card, correct IPv4 address, and Ethernet adapter, and it says the the name of the Ethernet adapter, network interface card, in the device name that's available in the Linux host operating system, ENP1S0, and correct IPv4 address. Okay. There's a ton of command line executables, so executables that don't have a graphical user interface, such as findstr. Findstr being this thing, similar to grep. Findstr add. So it only lists ipconfig sends its standard output and standard error via this pipe towards findstr, and findstr via standard input receives these lines and only writes to the standard output the lines that have the string add with this capitalization or not. It's case sensitive. Okay. Host name. Compressor makeup. The application that is the handler for the files with extension MSI to install MSI files. For instance, when we have downloaded Firefox ESR, we have chosen between a file with extension .exe or with extension MSI. MS-info was a graphical user interface application, and it doesn't work yet. Okay, netstat, command line application, no, pp, tcp. Netstat. Does work. Notepad. The most interesting part at Notepad for me is the file open file save as dialog, because it should be a minimum version of explorer.exe, so you can do additional actions in here, hopefully. So for instance, in c:\windows/system32, if you select all files, you should also get, for instance, cmd.exe. Where is that? And then you can start that. Letter C. Right click, open. So in case you're inside Wine and you only have access to Notepad, then this is the way that I usually use to escape out of there. I start a cmd.exe, and from here I run one of the executables that exist in c:\windows/system32, such as Explorer. Explorer, but you could also specify the extension of the file. In Windows, there's environment variables. One of the most important ones is the path environment variable, similar to the one in Windows, but uses in Linux, but uses different directory separators. So it's full paths of directories, and then separated by semicolon. Whereas in Linux, they're full paths of directories separated by colon. Okay, and then there's this special environment variable pathExt, which says .com.exe, .bat, .cmd, .vbs, .vb, .js, .jse, .wsf, and .wsh, which means that if you write, for instance, like we did Explorer, it tries to find probably the executable named Explorer in the path, in the directories in the path, doesn't find any, and then tries the environment variable pathExt. So it tries Explorer plus the first part in here, .com. There's no explorer.com in any of the directories in path. Advances to pathExt.exe. Tries Explorer plus concatenated with .exe, so that's explorer.exe. And it can find explorer.exe in the very first directory in the path environment variable in c:\windows/system32 /explorer.exe. So this should be the search algorithm for running executables inside of Windows and Wine. There's ping. Ping works. Reg is an editor for the Windows registry, but a text application, a command line application, versus regedit, which is the graphical user interface application for editing the Windows registry. Okay, regsvr for dcoms, coms, for registering, robocopy, part of the minimum Windows command line executables for file management. Run as for elevating, running as different user, run DLL we saw previously. Task manager. This is a vital application in Windows because sometimes your computer might become unresponding because a process is using 100% of all of the CPU threads. And in that case, you want Task Manager to be responsive. It's probably bound to a keyboard combination, I know, Control Escape or something. And should run with higher priority than the process that's using 100% of all of CPU threads, such that you can close that process. So let's close, for instance, this notepad. And it worked. Okay. In emergency situations, you're probably not using the Applications tab, but the Processes tab. And probably you're sorting by CPU, but the CPU percentage doesn't seem to be populated in this version of Task Manager, the one from Wine. I have used the source code in Task Manager before, looked at it in Wine because I wanted to see how the Windows Task Manager actually lists processes. Okay. It shows a multitude of Firefox processes. Hopefully it's only showing the Firefox processes that run inside Wine, not the ones that run on my host operating system. But I can see that the executable of the process Firefox does have an extension.exe, so it's just the processes inside Wine. Inside this Wine session, inside this Wine prefix, hopefully. Okay. The UI looks okay in the sense that the fonts look okay, the color scheme looks okay. I don't see single buffering, double buffering issues yet. I'm not sure if this information is refreshed in real time or every second. I haven't seen it being refreshed. Oh, it is. Okay, great that this main application task manager does exist inside Wine. There's no help file for task manager. Nope. Okay, I'm curious to see how help works in Wine. So let's see the help file for TotalCommander. Okay, so TotalCommander ships the help content, the content of the help file, but then there's a help viewer application that's part of Windows. Which is probably this guy, WinHLP32. Win file starts a Windows 3.11 Windows for Workgroups style file manager. Or maybe it's the exact same application, but with a different left-hand tree view or more expanded. I'm not sure what's the relationship between these two applications. Hopefully they reuse some of the source code. Wine file manager doesn't have a help file. Yeah, it's way more advanced, more featureful, the Wine file manager compared to the explorer.exe. There's a tab with a tool tab with a toolbar with buttons to switch drives. It's an MDI application. You can restore the windows inside the MDI application. So even if you don't have tabs, at least you have MDI. And then you can switch between the MDI windows from the Wine file manager file main menu window, and then switch between 1 and 2. Yeah, at least Wine file manager does have a main menu, whereas explorer.exe doesn't display one. Okay. Let's see the rest of the applications. Xcopy, command line for copying files. I'm not sure if these things are for Windows Update. WScript, this is the host application that runs Windows-style VBA scripts, VB scripts, and Windows-style JS JavaScript scripts. And it's a pair WScript with C script. This guy. So this is the command line version. An executable that can interpret JavaScript and VB scripts, but the Microsoft Windows style of scripts. Okay. All-view. Wow, all-view does work. Great. Run as. This is the sc.exe. This is for SEM, the Service Control Manager, so the subsystem in Windows that manages Windows services. Setx sets environment variables with application with instant application. There's also other executables like set, which I don't see here. I'm not sure where that comes from. The executable for restarting the computer or shutting it down, shutdown. I'm not sure what it does in the case of Wine. Maybe it restarts the Wine session. The Wine session is a hierarchy of Linux processes with parent-child relationship that are managed centrally by the Wine server. Sort, a command line executable, similar to the one in Linux. Subst for mapping network drives, so // server // C $. You can map it, for instance, to a drive on your current computer, for instance, on Q:. start for starting executables such as Notepad and then waiting for them, start/w, or for opening URLs, it will use the application that is configured to handle the specified protocol or extension per current user. Let's see if that works. So start https://web.de. And it opens Firefox, and more, it opens Firefox from the host operating system, the Linux one. Wow, totally unexpected, and I'm not sure if that's a good idea to mix the Wine and the Linux worlds so much. Task kill task list, similar to PS and kill -9. Who am I? Who am I? Arch Linux /administrator. So the same Linux user is being used also inside the Windows that's inside Wine. Okay. We already saw WineCFG. WineCFG is both a Linux executable inside /usr/bin/WineCFG, but also a Windows executable inside c:/windows/system32/winecfg.exe inside your Wine prefix. Minesweeper. Let's see if we can make this thing larger. Wow, successful. Almost. It doesn't say that I have finished. Okay. So a demo game. We wine mine. And right is the WordPad application. It should probably also have a alias as I don't know, WordPad.exe. Okay, very impressive. 0 crashes up to this moment. Some executables inside Wine don't have all of the features, such as the Wine Internet Explorer doesn't yet know how to download files. Okay, let's see what's inside the list of executables, the 32-bit executables. I'm expecting the same exe files. HH, this is the help compiler. Yeah, this kind of the same executables from what I see. Okay. We have TotalCommander, which means that we can run executables. We have tabs. We can switch between drives. TotalCommander being superior probably in all ways compared to explorer.exe and winefile.exe. What else can we do next? Let's see how we can compress files. Let's compress all of these. Shift F5, Alt F5. Okay, so this is the native packer inside the TotalCommander. We want to create a zip file, and it works. Unfortunately, the 7-zip context menu is not here, but you can navigate inside executables, and you can also extract them by copying out some files or directories inside the TotalCommander's view of inside the zip file. Next up, I would want a text editor, and the one that I probably want right now is the minimum scite, and then probably KDE Kate. On Google, I wrote scite. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Scite. Scintilla. Opening new tab does work in Firefox. And let's see where the download is. For Windows, full 64-bit download. DLLs, executable, great. So let's try this one first. There's multiple options. It wants to not write into the downloads directory. I'm not sure why. Let's find the downloads directory. How do we do that? My computer, C, users, administrator, and downloads. Save. Okay. It's a zip file. Okay. Let's move this file out. Control X. Create a subdirectory in here. C:\10\bin. Paste. Control V. So Control X, Control V does work. Let's see if we can extract somehow. Pack files. Nope. Control X, Control V. Control C, Control V. Nope. Then open in the left part of the TotalCommander the same directory, C:\tab/bin in the same directory. So new tab, Alt F1. Doesn't work. Okay, let's try like this. And extract F5. Let's see that the executable works. This guy. So correct icon for the application. Scite.exe is an executable and has inside a number of resources, one of these being the version of the executable, the version info block, and the icon. Okay, the executable seems to work. I'm not sure what the help does, probably navigates to the internet. Yes. About box does work correctly. There's a demo of the text editor control. There's colors. There's italic. Okay. Let's try to edit a file with extension properties, but for this we'll make this executable the default text editor in TotalCommander. Let's see if the viewer does work correctly. F3. 1, 2, 3 works correctly. Configuration options, edit view and editor. I have clicked on the browse button and it takes me to the current directory, /bin/w scite. Select, it's the filters by files with extension access, so it's exactly what I wanted. Open, apply, OK. And now let's see the text editor scite in action. Let's open a man page. Doesn't do any syntax highlighting. Let's open an HTML file. There is syntax highlighting for HTML. Language. Okay, so it looks great. And for a properties file, I'm not sure what this thing is. So this is a configuration file format for scite with comments and maybe Lua syntax, similar to an INI file. Okay, let's see if the viewer can view JPEG files. It can. TXT files. The fonts don't look okay inside scite, maybe because of wine. So O and R are too close. C and H are too close. I'm not even sure what fonts are configured inside Wine. What fonts does Wine want to use? Let's find out. Wine CFG. Wine CF. Okay. Where are the fonts? Normal text. Desktop. Control text. What's the font? What's the size? I'm not sure where you can specify the font to be used. I would go with Noto everywhere, and I would probably use font sizes similar to the ones that I currently have in KDE Plasma. The fonts all of a sudden seem way nicer. And what I did was I searched on Google Wine how to configure fonts. And instead of getting a way to set that I want Noto fonts for everything, I got to a web page where it said that you could enable subpixel anti-aliasing, which I totally do want. And I have created a file with this content. So the procedure was like this. I'm not exactly sure if something happened or not, if the setting was actually applied on the fly to all of the existing applications. So you want a file with extension.reg. So I went Shift F4 in TotalCommander, which will create a new file if it doesn't exist, a.reg. Opens the correct application, which is scite in .reg syntax highlighting mode. You can just paste the content. I have put an additional trailing new line, Control S. Make sure that it's Windows style, so file encoding, it's okay. File options, line end characters, \r\n, so CR plus LF. And then you can just execute this one. For instance, you can open a cmd.exe in the current directory and go regedit space the name of the file, like this. I don't have any screenshots from before I applied the change, so I don't know if anything happened, but to my eyes, these fonts do look okay. Scrolling does work okay in Mozilla Firefox inside Wine. I'm not sure this W doesn't look that great. It's kind of choppy. Yeah, this page is similar. Next up, I'm going to try to see if the Textator Kate from the KDE community works correctly. I want Windows 64-bit, nightly, and the 7-zip version. Okay, it forgot where to download again. My computer, C, users, administrator, and downloads. Let's see how we extract this file. I'm not sure if this is a painting issue. It looks like, I'm not sure why it says X and... Okay, so let's open 7-zip, program file, 7-zip file manager, this guy. And let's go to the downloads directory, Control Tab. Where is the file? Wrong directory. Okay, seems that TotalCommander knows how to display the contents of 7-zip files, so no need for actually using the 7-zip executable, but let's actually try to use it. Let's see if drag and drop works. Doesn't. Let's see if drag and drop works. Yeah, interesting. And we want to download, to extract inside c:\tab/bin directory. And it archives it, it doesn't decompress it. Okay. Let's copy the full path. Copy names with path to clipboard. Control V. And extract. Okay, and bin. There's a number of files because it has, for instance, translations into various languages other than English US. So c:\ten/bin/kate/bin and then kate.exe. And it works, just works. Okay, let's open a file in here. A txt file. Oh, the fonts look very, very strange. Courier new font. Where does this font come from? I would like to replace it with something else. Noto mono. So on the system, hack 10 is being used in KDE Plasma. Let's see if that exists here. Hack and 10. So there's Noto Sans Mono and hack. Let's go Noto Sans Mono. Okay. The default font size is way smaller because that's the Windows default. The fonts are way smaller on Windows compared to the out-of-the-box experience in Linux KDE Plasma. These fonts are acceptable to me. Let's open a larger file. A HTML file. Tabs work. Theming works correctly. The fact that theming works correctly, it's very, very impressive. Icons work correctly. Icons embedded in one of the DLLs or the Kate.exe file. Really, really impressed. Let's make TotalCommander use Kate by default as a text editor. Edit view, editor browse, and now it opened the wrong directory. Okay, and let's see if F4 works. It does. Okay, very, very, very impressed with what I'm seeing right now. CHM files. So there's a CHM viewer in Windows, and it manages to display CHM files, which are HTML files that then there's a CHM compiler that takes a bunch of HTML files and converts them into a single .chm file, which is actually a compressed file using probably cub. Control C, Control V. So I press Control C, Control V, and nothing happened. Paste. Copy, paste didn't work. F5. It's not a cab file. It's not a zip file. Okay. Let's see what the CHM viewer application in Wine knows. So it knows how to display individual HTML files. It knows the format of the tree view. It doesn't know search and the other thing, topics. And this icon is cut by the text. So the text commands cuts on the icon of add. Okay, you can navigate. It's HTML. You can navigate around. Very, very good. Let's actually see what executable is this one. So task manager. And the executable is hh.exe, HTML help viewer.exe. And the compiler is hhc, HTML help compiler.exe. That doesn't exist in Wine. hhc does not exist. Okay, as I'm impressed, let's continue this journey and see how far we get. So next up we want WinMerge. Download WinMerge 64-bit setup. This guy. Accept. SourceForge works correctly. And downloads. Save. Okay, open. No need to open, we already have TotalCommander open. The executable is WinMerge.exe. Next, theming. No 32-bit. So let's close these files. Filters, plugins, translations. Next. Next. Context menu for Explorer. Next. View the WinMerge start menu folder. This didn't really work, so it started Explorer, but not in the start menu directory, but instead on the desktop directory. Oh, it did work. It did work. It's in here. Correct. C:\/ program data /Microsoft /Windows /start menu /programs /WinMerge. Correct. And the HTML help does work. And it knows how to open the application. So we should actually have this open in TotalCommander in a tab. Okay. So now we have the Wine start menu. We have a ton of executables in C:\" /10\bin. We have the system C:\Windows /system32 for the Windows executables and the work directory. Great. Let's see if we can compare two directories. Nope, there's no shell tcom context menu for Explorer. Let's see if we can. The main menu is not shown in WinMerge. Not sure why. Options, shell integration, register shell extension. What about this guy? Show the context menu. So for me, this is the top one issue in Wine. The fact that the shell context menu doesn't work for me. So I cannot select two files in a text in a file manager and then go right click, WinMerge and compare them. I need to use workarounds. I need to start the application that handles that action first and then drag and drop. And I need to know how different applications handle drag and drop. So it's the longer way. The context menu is very valuable to me. Yeah, each application has its own context menu instead of using the Windows one. Okay, so WinMerge, from what I see, does work correctly. All of the features are there, buttons, everything. The main menu has issues because it's using that Microsoft Office 2003 style look, and something's wrong here, the background color. And maybe MDI in general is not perfect in Wine. I can see this painting artifact in here at the top. Okay, another application that just seems to work. Next up, let's go for the sysinternals suite. So I searched on Google sysinternals suite, accept, and I want to download the entire zip, not just the individual tools. My computer, C, users, administrator, downloads, save. Okay. Downloads, sysinternals suite in C :/10\bin. How do we extract it? That's the packer. So the keyboard shortcuts are Alt F5 for packing the selected files and Alt F9 for unpacking the selected files. Let's see what it does. Yeah, not great. Not what I wanted. Yeah, there's reasons why I prefer the unzipper from 7-zip, but I cannot have that. So F7 sysinternals suite, and then Control A to select all, F5, copy. Okay, let's see the tools that people tend to use. The first of all, it's Process Explorer. And at least it displays correctly. It starts, it does something. This is the system tray support. So we have Task Manager, and one of these two icons is probably from Task Manager. And then there's sysinternal suite, which also probably has a system tray icon. Close Process Explorer. Okay, but it doesn't work correctly. It should show some system information. It's just a white square. Okay, these graphs seem okay. There's missing icons. The tree of processes probably is okay. I can see the children processes of Firefox.exe. Let's see if I can get the window of Olive View in front. Right click, window, bring to front. Olive View. So in the Windows operating system, there's this concept of OLE or COM or DCOM or ActiveX or DDE, which is, how do we define this thing? It's you expose objects either in process or out of process using just for C programming language functions exported by that DLL. In the case of DLLs or OCX files for ActiveX files. So your object can be written in a number of programming languages such as C# or C++ or plain C programming language. But then that's the object is exported from your DLL not as C#, C++, etc., but as Windows style COM. So your DLL needs to expose the four C style C programming language functions. And then there's also a MSIL, Microsoft Intermediate Language, a description language for the objects and interfaces that you're exposing. So it's a standard way of exposing objects, either in process or out of process. And these objects are auto-bindable, so Windows knows how to create bindings for your, or whatever, or maybe your language runtime knows how to create bindings from MSIL to your programming language. For instance, Python has this feature, C# has this feature, the .NET framework, Delphi has this feature, the integrated development environment Embarcadero Delphi. In Python, there's a package, I don't know, PyWin32 PyCom, that will create a wrapper on top of these objects exposed using the standard mechanism. And then you can see the objects that are exposed by DLLs, but also registered in the system. So you can have a DLL that exports objects, but then somebody needs to know the name of your DLL and where the full path of your DLL. Whereas you can tell Windows, here is my DLL, please expose the objects and interfaces that exist in my DLL in the global registry of COM objects. And this is the global registry. etc. Okay, and then there's also the you can also expose graphical user interface controls using this mechanism. You export it from your DLL or from your executable, and then you register it on the system. And then a application that needs to use your graphical user interface control just needs to know the some globally unique IDs, GUIDs for the MSIL that's saved in the Windows registry, in the global registry of ActiveX controls, and Windows will do the rest. We'll load the correct DLL into your process, we'll instantiate the correct interface in that DLL, will use that interface to fetch the correct object, will parent that graphical user interface control object to your control, to the host application. Okay, let's see if we can see information about processes, totalcmd.exe properties, rightly properties. We can see the path, command line, working directory, process ID, parent, process ID, that it's a 64-bit process. Okay. There seems to be some integration with dbg help.dll. I'm not sure what that was for. Yeah, so maybe an incomplete version of the WinDBG DLL. It shows entry points as 0. Yeah, in general, Wine for me was not that great of an experience because after using executables, Windows executables inside Wine, I often got to places where that executable would go stop responding to my commands and instead use all of the CPU threads on the computer, or just max out the current CPU thread, and then I need to close the process from the Linux command line using killall -9 wine. I don't even know the name of the process, what to kill in Windows, in Linux. So it was not a great experience because the processes would start doing very strange things and I didn't know exactly how to close them. And I totally did not recommend anyone to use Wine because of this management thing. Whereas if an application crashes, I can restart it. But then if an application starts doing all sorts of interesting things, like create a million of sub-processes that nobody knows how to close, and the only way to exit out of that mess is to actually restart your Linux operating system, then yeah, I couldn't totally either use Wine or recommend Wine. So the top number one issue for me in Wine is resource management. If something goes wrong, an easy way to kill that process and its children, or to restart Wine, or I don't know how to perform this emergency cleanup of processes. That's the top one issue that I have in Wine. The fact that an application is incomplete and some buttons are missing, not a problem for me. The fact that an application is crashing and says why it crashed, such that I can know how to not crash it again. Maybe if I click a button, the application crashes each time, that's not a problem. If by crashing means that that process and its resources and children processes exit correctly, I can restart the application in a matter of milliseconds. So that's not a problem. In time, I will learn not to click certain buttons, But the fact that I cannot trust myself to get to a safe place, and if something crashes, how can I get back to the way Wine worked 2 minutes ago? That's a deal breaker for me. Great, let's see some other applications. Procmon. It requires a kernel mode device driver. Oh, cool. How do I close you now? RDC man. This is a .NET application. MSDSCAX is not registered, so this is probably the remote desktop viewer ActiveX in process DLL and the graphical user interface control for remote desktop viewer. Yeah, very advanced functionality. The sysinternals suite is for digging through the deepest corners of the Windows kernel mode and the Windows userland. It's going to look at low-level Windows NT things, such as in this case, it's showing things that regular people never encounter, like Windows stations and NLS. And mutants. Disk mode will require a kernel module probably. Desktops. Enables 4 virtual desktops. No, thank you. Debug view. This might actually work. Active Directory Explorer. And CHM manual pages. Okay, very, very, very impressive. Let's try to install the Borland Delphi 7 integrated development environment. We have the ISO and the .exe file, which is a patch. So let's see how we do that. Let's open 7-zip. Let's open the .iso file. Mark, copy names with path to clipboard. Control V. And extract to downloads and then BD7. Downloads BD7. This is not a Windows file system, so I'm not sure it's a good idea what I did. So let me extract it somewhere else. Let's extract it in the work directory. Okay, file with extension exe, probably install this guy. Delphi 7. Next, CL number and authorization key. Okay, I accept the terms of the EULA. Typical compact custom. Okay, all three versions of Office controls. Interbase client. Oh, MDoc. I have just kept the defaults and I'm not sure if this will work because it will install, I know, an old version of Java, MDoc. Who knows what will actually work? Maybe I need to install Delphi 7, but just a very minimal version of the installation. Without interbase, without many things. And that's it. Who knows? Let's see in the start menu what we have now. Nothing. Interbase. Says modify, but I don't see it in the start menu. Where is it, the executable? And it seems that Delphi 7 works. Let's create a minimal application and see if everything just does work or not. Okay, how do we do that? File, save project as C temp work 3 unit 1 seems okay. Project 1. Okay, we need a number of controls. Where are the standard ones? So the standard ones are in here, standard, letter S. And we'll want a main menu. And a status bar and a multi-line text editor. So the controls are unfortunately placed in a main toolbar, not in a left-hand side tree view. There's no search, and they're in random tabs in here. So in the standard, we have the main menu, the main menu. We have the multi-line text editor, which is the memo. And under additional, we have things such as buttons with icons. And then under Win32, we have the status bar that we wanted of type tStatus bar. Okay, memo, align, al client, the main menu, menu designer, and file, enter, E and exit, and that's about it. Let's run the application, run from the Delphi 7 main menu, run and then run F9. This is the application that we wanted to have. Hello from a Delphi 7 app. File, exit. We'll implement a, let's do the implementation of this event. Exit, events, action. How do we do that? On click. Okay. There's auto completion. Run again. And this time the application exits correctly. So Delphi 7 just seems to work. I'm not sure if even the more complex controls work correctly. The servers, the interbase, database, or the additional ActiveX controls that you would install in Wine to make them available in Delphi 7. And Wine has tried to have the correct fonts available for Delphi in the correct font sizes, because I remembered that this way Delphi looked like in the year 2000, with these exact fonts and the same size. So this is it. It just seems to me that Wine 11 is at a point where most of Delphi 7 integrated development environment works correctly, but also the applications that you create using Delphi 7 seem to just work. Let's try a game, and this should be it. I would like to run a simple Linux game that doesn't really require GPU acceleration. Let's see what's available here. So there's a bug in here because it doesn't say the current directory. The location bar is missing. Okay, how do we do that? My computer, C, users, administrator, downloads, save. Middle clicking on a tab bar closes the tab correctly. Downloads, L pairs, L pairs 2.exe, full screen game, wow. .200 FPS limit, that's a good idea to have. Start game. Where's the gorilla? Something's wrong. I don't know how to play this thing. Maybe some images are not showing because way too many of these don't have a content. Where was the dog? Yeah, I guess that some of these images are not shown correctly. So this is it. Almost everything that I threw at the recent release of Wine 11 has worked correctly. Delphi 7 has worked correctly. 7-zip has worked correctly. TotalCommander almost correctly. The only thing that doesn't work is this panel here has single buffering issues. It has the wrong painting. Other than that, things worked. Text editors, scite worked correctly. KDE Kate worked correctly. This game, L games, L pairs 2 worked correctly. WinMerge worked correctly, so I could extract ISOs, zip files, I could run exe files, I could install Firefox ESR 64-bit, the latest version, and all of the applications that I have installed were 64-bit, including this game, except Borland Delphi. So the 64-bit subsystem in Wine 11 works correctly. The 32-bit subsystem in Wine 11 did work correctly. The only actual issue that I had is that I don't have the correct context menu anywhere. Not in Windows Explorer. Right, I want a context menu where I can unzip this file because it has the extension zip and I have the application 7-zip installed. So configuring file extensions also doesn't work. If you go right click, it doesn't have an option open with and then select 7-zip and then it should remember that file association. If you go right click on the file with in this case extension .zip properties, there's open with. It doesn't say with what it opens, but if I go change, it says that this functionality is not implemented yet. So the functionality of configuring that when you double click on a zip file, it should always open with 7-zip, or if you double click on an HTML file, it should always open with Firefox, is not implemented probably. Okay, so right click this thing. It doesn't work correctly, it doesn't show the iShell com extensions. And I have two installed, the ones for 7-zip and for WinMerge. I cannot see any of them. And then in multi-line selection, in multi-selection should also have a different context menu because of those com iShell extensions. Cut, copy, create link, delete, rename properties. Cut, copy, create link. Yeah, so from what I see, this is the context menu iShell that's presented by Wine to 64-bit processes. Cut, copy, create link, delete, rename properties. With the default option is cut. Wow, that's a strange default option. And then TotalCommander could successfully extend the default context menu by adding two elements, spec files and view lister. So the context menu is half implemented in the sense that exists and TotalCommander could extend it. But then other applications via the classical com iShell mechanism couldn't extend this context menu. And it's the thing that I have missed the most. So this is it. Windows 11, a great Wine 11, a great release. Thank you.